Standalone. We are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
Today we're going to talk about a topic that Vince came up with. Vince, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about whether or not you can successfully make a movie that is a spin-off of an outside property, i.e. can you make a Nightwing movie without spinning it out of a Batman movie?
Hold on, let me write this down. Okay, so
A to B, popsicle sticks lined up. This leads to this. Bruce Willis told us not to use straws to map out the timeline.
So the question is it a good idea to take characters from that are like supporting characters in somebody else's original universe or property without doing that property first? Yeah. Okay. So Nightwing or what are some other characters?
Pretty much every Bat character: Nightwing, Huntress, Batgirl,
People
Robin.
like that, yeah. Well, does
could
this
you make
work
a Steel movie?
Does
Could
this
you make a?
Yeah. Well,
could you make a Steel movie?
They couldn't, but when it happened, yeah.
I really liked that movie when I was a kid, and then I grew up and watched it again and got really sad.
Obviously they could. It was like Catwoman. It's like actually it is like Catwoman too, because Catwoman is also a supporting character. Yeah. So that's interesting. Both are bad, but that's not necessarily the reason. We've talked about this before, but there's been a lot of talk about like Venom getting a movie, and I think we did a video, didn't we, on making villains.
Yeah, we did. That's right.
So this is maybe even kind of a spin-off of that. Yeah.
Can you make a video that is a spin-off of a video? Without having considered the fact that you made a video anyway.
But I don't think this even necessarily we necessarily have to look at this even as just exclusionary for comic book characters, right? Like could you make a Watson movie that didn't have Sherlock Holmes in it?
Yeah, that would be weird.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you start us off? Where do you come down on this? Starting us off.
I think that it's artistically possible. I think you could make a movie that is a solid, and also I think that it depends on how popular the main or the original property is. So I think you could make a Robin movie or a Nightwing movie without spinning it out of a previously made Batman movie, because part of it could be using the character of Batman in that movie. I mean, you could even have it early on. Nightwing could, and this is of course speculative of something that's never going to get made. Nightwing, you could have the progression from Robin to Nightwing. The first 10 minutes. I mean, you can have the inciting event 10 minutes into the movie that makes him stop being Robin and turn into Nightwing, because we already know the relationship between Batman and Robin. It's so firmly ingrained into society or into pop culture that we have that in the back of our minds. It's Batman and Robin, the dynamic duo. We get that. They kind of are the epitome of what we think of as a superhero and the sidekick. So thereby, boiling that down, you can make Nightwing by showing a falling out between Batman and Robin.
I don't want to make this entire video about nothing but Batman, because A, we do a whole lot of Batman, and B, just because that's what you see behind me doesn't mean that's the only thing we know anything about. But I want to stick with this for a minute, because you make a terrific point. I think Nightwing is the example of something that I really think would be a good idea to do this with. And the reason is because people resist Robin with Batman in his movie so much of the time, that if we're ever gonna actually
not exclusively, but he does have a point.
Yeah, so. Obviously a lot of our viewers wanted to see Robin in even the Nolan films for a long time.
But people think that he's kind of frivolous and maybe not as serious of a character as Batman, thereby they don't want to see it.
He drags down Batman because he's too lighthearted of a character. He kind of messes with and he doesn't have to even be that these days, but he does immediately mess with the whole kind of stoicism of Batman, the lonerness of that. Batman has always, to people, seemed, and this is fair, to be somewhat of a contradiction in that he is one of the most lonerish of the superheroes, but we also invented the sidekick with him, at least in comic books. Batman comics did not invent the sidekick. That existed prior to that, of course. But lots of characters in literary history have something akin to a sidekick.
It's the most iconic sidekick character. Robin, in our society.
But obviously you have the Lone Ranger and Tonto. You have all kinds of things. Right. But anyway, but to your point, Vince, would we ever get a great movie where Robin got a really fantastic character arc and we really got to live with that character and learn about him and understand him and appreciate him in a Batman movie. I don't know if we would or not. Probably not. So I
sincerely doubt it.
Robin is a character that has a lot of fame and a lot of fans in his own right. I could totally see making a movie where that was all about Robin and doing not a Robin universe in that you wouldn't necessarily have to have sequels, although that's how we do movies these days. Movies are all about trying to make franchises.
Which ideally I don't think they should be. I mean, you should be able to make one good movie.
I don't either. For instance, I loved Ender's Game, but I kind of hope we don't get any more of them because I think that movie stood alone really well. But yeah, so with the Robin thing, that is the exception. That is the big exception for me.
Right.
For most of them, Vince, I find myself kind of wondering what the point is.
You know, and I understand what you're saying. I mean, who would care to make a Speedy movie? That's
not what I mean. What I mean is, stories are about a protagonist, and these are characters in their own right. So, of course, we'd love to see stories done about the sidekicks, or maybe, as we talked about in that other villain, sometimes even the villains, and other supporting characters. Could you do the Jimmy Olsen movie? Yeah, sure. But why would you want to do it before you establish the hero? Why would you want to develop the Superman universe through Jimmy Olsen starting out? Why would you want to do that? It seems to me like it makes a lot more practical sense. It's more natural to spin them off. Than it is to start with them. Unless they were a straight up standalone film, and in Hollywood these days, that ain't gonna happen.
I mean, to some extent, I understand where you're coming from, and I can agree that I wouldn't necessarily care to see a Jimmy Olsen movie without it being a spinoff of Superman. But I do think that it could work, not necessarily be a financial success, but be an artistic success, to where you have a movie where you have established that there is a Superman, and that Jimmy Olsen is trying to get to know him through whatever means Jimmy Olsen has. And maybe by the end of the movie, like, the big character arc is him trying to become a big, almost at Hollywood, a big-time reporter. And he really wants to do this, and by the end of it, he gets his breakout case. He finds out who Superman is and decides not to do it. So he's content just to be a photographer. So I think you can make a good story arc and involve the big character, the original property, and make it about the other guy. It's just nobody's going to go see a movie that's called Jimmy Olsen, as nobody would go see a movie called John Carter when they should have called it John Carter of Mars or War of Mars.
Well, the difference is Jimmy Olsen, I think, is a more familiar name in culture for people than John Carter is, but...
Yeah, I mean, and you could call it Superman's pal. I mean...
Sure. But I guess the point I'm making, Vince, is... why is it important that we make them before establishing the hero in the first place? Like, I still think that would make more sense as a spinoff, right?
I mean, I guess the word I'm going to latch on to from that sentence is importance. I'm not sure it is important.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm not saying this is something that needs to happen. Okay. I'm saying this is something that could happen.
Why would it ever occur to anybody to do that?
I mean, the only reason
is the quiz, because the thing is, we don't do comic books this way. We don't start a comic book out establishing Jimmy Olsen first and then Superman later. Like, no, I'm talking. Jimmy Olsen had his own comic book, but I'm talking about like name a character that the first time we ever saw them, like a major superhero or big hero of some kind when we're talking about heroes, that we saw them birthed out of a minor character. That never happens. Why would we ever think to do a movie that way?
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from.
That's all I'm saying. I would like to see more spin-offs, though. I would like to see more minor characters or supporting characters get their own kind of more intimate, down-to-earth kinds of movies. A lot of people, and it's looking more and more like we might get some of this down the road for Marvel. A lot of people really want to see the Rhodey movie. He's been in 3 Iron Man films, and he could probably carry his own film. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. War Machine.
War Machine, yeah. And same thing for Pepper Potts. So hopefully we will at some point start having precedent for this. But going the other way, I would be really surprised if it ever even occurred to anybody that it would be a good idea, because as we said earlier, people have tried this by excluding the rest of those characters from the universe, by saying, okay, we're going to pull Steel out and give him his own movie, but it won't have anything to do with Superman. He's going to just be his own character. And I think that could have worked. I don't think it was a bad film, and it is a bad film. I don't think it was a bad film, I don't think it was a bad film because Superman wasn't in it. So that could have worked. It's just, we don't have any precedent. It's never happened. It's never worked before.
I mean, and there are characters like Huntress. You can, and they made Huntress Year One.
That's a great point. Give her own film. Yeah, but you can make Huntress without Batman, without even mentioning Batman.
I mean, but that's the thing, is that there are minor characters out there where people are going, well, that's a Batman character. Well, yeah, she's in Gotham, but you know what? You can make a Huntress movie without ever putting Batman in it. I mean, and you can set it in Gotham. You know what? Batman's one person. He's not everywhere. I know it seems like it to bad guys, but and crime does happen where Batman doesn't get his hands on it, and you know, things happen in Gotham where Batman can't fix it. Thereby, that's why these other characters even exist. So you could make a Huntress movie. You could make. I'm trying to think of other people that are not Superman related. I mean, of course, you probably couldn't make a Bucky movie. That would be.
What would be the point?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
he's entirely tied to Captain America. Here's what I think. I think if you're talking about a character that has a costume and is a vigilante or a superhero or an anti-hero, and you can make a Deathstroke movie all by himself. If you're talking, and he's getting so much more popular these days. You could do a Deadpool movie that wasn't related to the X-Men, for instance. Right. And of course there was a lot of talk about that at one time. So I think that. I don't think you could make just a straight-up Jimmy Olsen movie and not have Superman in it. Why would it matter that he was Jimmy Olsen? But I think that somebody like Huntress and somebody like Catwoman. Here's the thing.
They could have made a good Catwoman.
Catwoman could have worked, and it didn't have to be set in Gotham, and it didn't have to have the name Batman in it. All you had to do was make it. She didn't even necessarily have to be named Selena Kyle, although that would have helped. I think a lot of fans, get with it. But all you had to do was make her that character. But just give her her own universe. I think this can work. But I think that it's more likely to make something like that and make it work, Vince, than to have it be set in in another big character's universe, but not actually start with that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, and a lot of it is, especially with Jimmy Olsen and things of that kind. I think that's a great idea. I think you can make a terrific Jimmy Olsen movie, but you can only make a terrific Jimmy Olsen movie in his relation to Superman.
Yeah.
Because you can make Jimmy Olsen the main character. You can make him somebody that you really, really care about, but it is only important that he is Jimmy Olsen if Superman is there. Now, I mean,
because we're not talking about a hero at that point. I mean, we're not talking about that kind of a not a superhero.
Yeah, we're talking. I mean, there is a protagonist there, but why not just some random reporter if he's going to be doing something? I mean,
right?
Nobody's. I mean, you could call it Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal. If Superman's not there, people are going to throw a fit. So
yeah, this is the whole reason that that people were really down on the idea that CW had a few years back on doing the Graysons. Who cares about the early days of Dick Grayson before his parents get killed? Like, who cares about that?
Although I think that might be interesting. I mean, personally, I'm not objecting to the idea of making a reporter show that's all about, prior to the days of Superman, all about Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and Perry White. I could see that working. I think it would be
tough to make it matter that it was those characters.
It would be hard to market it to where people would care that don't know that Superman is connected.
But I also think it would just be hard to make it to make it not feel like you could interchange those names and make them anybody.
That's the thing, is that I'm not sure if that's
because those are archetypes, right? I mean, like Lois Lane is a familiar character in pop culture now, and we are familiar with her. But there are also lots of different ways to do that character. We've seen lots of different versions of her. So just because she's named Lois Lane, and just because you have a guy named Perry White and have somebody named Jimmy Olsen, it wouldn't immediately make you go, oh, okay, this is the Daily Planet, as opposed to any other place if Superman's not involved in any way, right?
I mean, if I was going to make a movie about them, I would do the Superman route, their relation to Superman. But I'm not sure if it's something that's hugely important that they are made in relation to Superman. Like, they're important to the fan base because of their relation to Superman.
Right.
But
then why does it matter that that's what the names of those characters are called?
I mean, maybe for us it's just the further adventures of these characters. Maybe it's like, you know that these people exist outside of Superman.
Well, that's fine. I just mean don't do it as a prequel.
Yeah, I mean, a prequel. I wouldn't. No,
I'm so sick of those. You know
I wouldn't establish a character out of a minor character. Okay. I would just make a one-shot movie. I would just make something that exists.
So you're not talking a TV show or something.
No.
See, one of the things that, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, so this is a great time. Have I mentioned to you, or have you heard about the show that Fox is developing about Jim Gordon?
Oh no.
The Gotham show. Fox is developing a before Batman prequel thing. That's going to be like Gordon and the Gotham Police Department.
Yeah, I'd call that GCPD, man.
And I kind of wish they were doing that, but it sounds like they're calling it Gotham or something.
Gotham Central?
Well, they're not calling it that, but they could have called it that. But the thing is, you don't want to just straight up call it Gotham Central because that's an actual book that had Batman in it, or had Batman in the background. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, so it's going to be pre-Batman, and it's supposed to explore some of the villains, perhaps even before they're villains, that kind of thing. And a lot of people, and I think it could be great, and I'm excited about it. But I understand the folks that are saying, well, there's a risk that it won't matter that he's named Jim Gordon. You know, there's a risk that it's going to feel like just any other cop show, and the draw for people is just that, well, it's Gotham City, and we're sort of doing that, but not really. You know what I mean? So we'll see how they handle it. I mean, it could be absolutely fantastic.
I mean, I would say that there is a risk that people will say, well, why does it matter? And I'll say this, why does it matter that the main character's not in it? Because we flesh out this character and we get to know him. Now, if they started putting things into this character, leading him to a place, like especially a prequel, leading it to a place to where it's obvious the Batman thing could never happen, then I would say, why does it matter that it's Jim Gordon?
Or that, like, they do all of the villain introductions without Batman there. That's a thing people are worried about. I kind of don't think they'll do that. I kind of think it's more likely that they'll do a lot of villains before they actually take their mantles and become villains. That's a big thing right now. We're seeing that a lot. Arkham Origins did a lot of that. Edward Nygma's there, but he's not called the Riddler yet. We have a lot of that going on right now. So
I'm not sure that it would even be a problem for me if they started doing, like, introducing villains before Batman, and I know that they set up in Batman Begins and other places that super villains started to exist because Batman put on his cape and cowl.
Sure,
but could it possibly go the other way? Could you establish a universe where a superhero using a cape and using an image exists because people or because villains are out there using an image?
No, yeah, absolutely. I just think that you want to make sure that Gordon doesn't seem like your Batman.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, because that should be a show that's more about the effectiveness of the police as opposed to one man going rogue.
Well, and we don't know how much of a supporting cast it is. We don't know how much of an ensemble cast show it is, as opposed to being a Gordon character study. Obviously, it's just in development. They're not even in pre-production. But, what I think some folks are worried about is not even so much we're establishing villains, but that we're doing, like, the familiar villain story with Gordon instead of a Batman. I can totally see why people don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people would care, and I think that it can work anyway, and I'm kind of excited that they're pushing forward and trying it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, and I understand the hesitance.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So,
but anyway,
I think bottom line here is you can make a good movie out of using minor characters, and I am in full support of doing this thing where you're using minor characters and you're just kind of fleshing out like one of my favorite Daredevil stories is Battling Jack Murdoch, where it's about the life of Jack Murdoch while he was still a boxer, and we get that fleshed out. It's really interesting to me, and it, of course Daredevil's not there, but because he was a kid. but I just think it's so interesting. I love to explore these characters' lives, and I wouldn't mind seeing these things on the big screen. I mean, it's a licensed property, and of course, DC owns these things, so they can, or excuse me, WB owns these things. They can make whatever they want. So why not use some of these more minor characters and it not have to be a big deal that they're from another universe? You can just use this source material as an inspiration for a new way of telling this character.
Well, as people have always said about superheroes, and Batman especially, that they are defined by their villains, by the rogues galleries, that a lot of people like the villains more than they like the heroes. I think we have this somewhat supporting cast, too. I am not... I discovered this about myself somewhat recently, that I'm not a Superman fan so much as I am a Krypton fan. More and more I discover that the stories that I really latch onto, the stuff I really get giddy about, is the Krypton stuff. And I think some people probably read Superman stories and go, oh man, we get another flashback to Krypton, and I just get giddy about it. Like Krypton, I think I'm maybe like Jor-El more than I like Kal-El. And So, I said for a long time, let's do a Krypton movie. I always wanted to see that, and that's why I got kind of jazzed at the beginning of Man of Steel that we got so much Krypton, and so like I always thought that's another one, kind of like Dick Grayson. Although this is even easier to do because it would be a prequel and it would happen before you ever had to have Superman, so it wouldn't feel like unnatural. But like that was one that I always felt like, God, I think a Krypton movie would sell almost as well as a Superman movie would, because I don't think I'm alone in this.
I think that maybe it's kind of important to note that if you're going to
we'll ever get that, but
yeah, no, I agree.
But
cool.
but I feel that way with a lot of other supporting characters, right? That there's people that people like as much or more than they like of the superheroes, and so you'd like to see them get their own stories. It's just, would you want to see it first before you saw it in the other characters?
See, I think the key to this is looking at is answering the question with the show or movie or whatever, answering the question, why is it important that we're looking at this and not Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is it important we're looking at Jim Gordon? Why is it important we're looking at Krypton?
Would you agree if I were to say that with almost every example that maybe every example we've thought of, it has to be a straight up character study. I think that most of these, I don't think that they would really work as like big epic world exploring things, because what's the point of that? You might as well go with your big epic hero. No, these are, you would want to do this for it to be an intimate character study.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of where I'm going.
I'd love to see some of these. I just feel like we miss a lot of opportunities to spin off characters. Also, I just want to throw that out there, that, like, you're right, they could work, but man, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, and potentially with the Man of Steel universe, I feel like we've got a really good shot now at doing some of this. Building up some of these minor characters and giving them their own movies.
I kind of feel like some of these major studios are a little short-sighted. They're like, how can we get this big name character out there? And for DC, it's mostly, how can we get Batman and Superman out there? What can we do to make Batman and Superman more important? And, well, everybody already knows they're going to go watch these movies. I understand why you're making them.
Well, it's not about making them more important, Vince. It's about, that's a property we know sells already, so it's no risk to put it out.
Yeah, how can we further advance our pocketbooks by using Superman and Batman?
Yeah,
that is what I'm trying to get.
It might be fair to say that that like the way they're doing the Superman Batman movie is, to a certain degree, at least story wise, a risky move. But as far as making a movie with Superman and Batman both in it, that ain't risky at all. You are building a foundation that can't fall down. You're gonna make your money back.
Right. So. All I'm saying is I'm fully in support of these guys trying something else. I mean, why not use some of your characters? Why not use some of these things? Because there are movies, there are TV shows, there are movies about newsrooms. Why not make it the Daily Planet?
Yeah. A couple of things historically I think are really stopping studios from doing this kind of thing, maybe, if they're even thinking about it. One of them is we've had so many spin-offs from TV shows that last like 5 episodes or 12 episodes and get canceled. Spin-offs aren't the big thing they used to be, and I mean like we still try them every so often, but I mean like a big one in the sitcom world that a lot of people like to look at is Joey spun off from Friends. Infamously people didn't like that show and it got canceled real fast. But then you go back a lot further than that, and we had a lot of spin-offs, especially I don't know what it is, by the way, about sitcoms. They spin off other sitcoms, but like in the sitcom world we had a lot of those that were really successful. Back in the day, you had Mork and Mindy, which spun off from Happy Days, which is really fascinating because that was a sci-fi comedy spun off from a dream sequence, and it's really interesting. But then you had like the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which spun off like 2 other sitcoms,
Laverne and Shirley, right?
and one of them was a serious cop show.
Yeah. Man, I forgot about that.
Really interesting stuff, but we don't do it as much as we used to. And I find myself wondering if how long it's going to take before we realize that we don't have to just spin off minor characters into TV shows for movies. Like, okay, well, we gave Agent Coulson his own TV show, but like, could we have, I don't know, given him a movie? Like, how long is it going to be before Nick Fury gets his own movie? You know what I mean? Things like that. Now, that doesn't count as one of these because he's almost a superhero in his own right.
Yeah. I wouldn't
and
mind
that's
seeing,
likely to happen.
I wouldn't mind seeing something they did with even the Ultimate books a little bit. Make Nick Fury a superhuman, and he has incredible longevity, and he's kind of the first.
Wouldn't it be funny if we
attempt
found
at
out
making a super soldier? It was in the Marvel or in the Ultimate Universe. He is essentially the first super soldier.
Yeah, I don't know how hard it would be. I don't think it would be that hard in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to suddenly reveal that there was an attempt before that. But I'm not sure. I'd have to watch Captain America again and see if it precludes that notion. But
I kind of like the idea that maybe they would have tried again.
Yeah,
and he didn't get superpowers, but maybe he has just like now eternal or seemingly eternal youth and well-being. And so I like the idea that you could make a Sergeant Rock, or excuse me, sorry, that's DC. You could,
you could make
it. Why not get out there and make a war movie about Sergeant Rock? Let's do this. I would make a Sergeant Fury in the Howling Commandos movie.
What was that team? What was that team in DC that
Easy
had
Company?
No. It was bird themed. It was hawk themed.
Oh, Hawk and Dove?
No. It was a team. It was a military thing. Blackhawks. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
pilots.
I'm surprised we haven't seen the Blackhawks movie happen yet.
Yeah. I mean, and you could even make it less kitschy, and they don't have to have a private island secluded that's covered by mysterious clouds for some reason.
Or you could go that way, and it would be awesome. It's
a little Thunderbird-esque, but you could.
But it'd be fun. Yeah. No, I think that would sell it more, Vince.
I would almost make it highly stylized and have people talk like this, really fast style, see? and I would make it kind of silly.
That'd be great.
And I would shoot it entirely in black and white, except for little splashes of yellow.
Make it like a serial. Well, you know what I thought of as soon as you said that? That would be the military version of Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah. Although everyone hated that movie for, I feel like, no good reason.
They were wrong, because it's awesome.
Sky Captain of the World Tomorrow, I feel like they just don't understand that that's an entirely different topic.
Today, Vince and Captain Logan recommend Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's supposed to be classic, and I don't feel like people understood
we
that.
We should do a discussion about that at some point. That's a great movie. Anyway, another thing I wanted to reiterate real quick, this is going to be my final thoughts on this, Vince, is that I think that going back to some examples we talked about earlier of attempts at something like this before, I think that some of these are going to stop studios from wanting to do kind of minor characters, but what they don't realize is that movies like Catwoman and movies like Elektra didn't not work well and didn't bomb and weren't considered bad films because they were stories about minor characters, or in Elektra's case, a spin-off from another movie. It's because they were bad movies!
Yeah.
Because they just weren't very good. That's all. I still say you could have made a great Catwoman movie, and I still say that Elektra had no business being not a great movie. Yeah,
you could have made a terrific Elektra. You could have made a terrific Catwoman movie. You could have made good things. You could have made a good Green Lantern movie. It doesn't mean that Green Lantern is an unusable character, or Catwoman, or whoever. And I realize Green Lantern's not a minor character, but these characters.
You see what I'm saying? Like, that's not the reason they failed.
I feel like these people in the business start getting it in their heads.
Steele's in there. Howard the Duck's in there. You know, the character that a lot of people didn't know anything about, but that movie didn't fail because it was a minor character. It failed, or a minor Marvel thing. It failed because it wasn't very good.
I feel like these people start closing off doors in their mind. Like, well, we tried this and it didn't work, so we can never use it again. Well, it's not the fact that you used it that's bad. It's the fact that you didn't use it to its full potential.
Look at the criticism,
or even half its potential.
You're talking about movies that were like bombed, critically panned. Why were they critically panned? Were people going, I didn't like this movie because it didn't have Daredevil in it?
Yeah, no,
nobody said that. Look at what the actual criticisms were and see if they're actually valid. Take one writing workshop in your life, and then you know what I mean. Like, because essentially those are the skills you got to use. You look at what all the criticism is, and then you see how much of it is valid and how much of it isn't, and then you move forward from there. That's not what execs do. Because they're not looking at the stories, they're just looking at the viability of the properties.
If these people want to create a universe, I feel like what they're thinking is they have to make a movie, and then make a movie with several of these characters in it, and that establishes a universe.
Yeah.
But to some extent, like, if you wanted to create a Marvel universe using Daredevil, you could have made a Daredevil movie, you could have made an Elektra movie, you could have made a Kingpin movie, all spun out of the same feature. So you have...
sure.
and then you try to make good movies, and then people care about them, and then you can bring them all back in and make a larger whole.
Terrific point. CW is doing it right now with Arrow. You've got a DC universe being spun out of one of the most unlikely places, Green Arrow, and guess what? It's working. It's a good show. A lot of people are still really digging it, and they're spinning out a Flash show. Here pretty soon, yeah. And if you look at the sheer number of properties that have never been all that Green Arrow centered that they've put in that universe, but are working, they are doing exactly what you just mentioned, exactly what you're talking about. I mean, like they are doing Ra's al Ghul in the League of Shadows, or League of Assassins. Yeah. Ra's al Ghul is going to be an Arrow. Or at the very least, he's been mentioned now. We know there's a League of Assassins, and Black. We just brought in Black Canary, and she was a member of the League of Assassins. And we just had a name drop of Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul was never a Green Arrow character. Like, I'm not sure there is one story that is Green Arrow and Ra's al Ghul, but they're spinning out an entire DC universe from Arrow, and it's working.
Might as well.
So we're doing it in TV. I don't know why we can't do it in movies. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting. My wife and I just started watching Arrow.
Yeah.
And she's loving it. She's so into this thing. And
how far are you?
We're just a few episodes in.
You'll like it more as it goes along.
Yeah, we're like 6 episodes, and I'm starting to go, this is really cool now.
Yeah. But you had your reservations by 2 or 3, yeah?
Yeah, like I stopped at 5, and you're like, no, you got to watch at least 7 episodes. That's when it gets interesting.
You do. That's exactly right.
So,
wait till you get into 2, because it's pretty darn good.
You know, there are things that I don't mind, like little name drop things where they do, like, they're the train to Bloodhaven. Why not?
Right.
And
they mention everything. We've got Central City now. Yeah, there's lots of stuff.
I saw something that I saw in a Shazam comic book that made me go, like, they've even put a fast food restaurant in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Big Belly Burger is a big thing.
I wondered if that wasn't comic book. Yeah, and
it's Billy Batson's favorite place to eat.
What you got to realize about Arrow too is they're bringing in a lot of 52. Frankly, kind of too much 52 because they're using the number 52 a lot right now, which is a little bit irritating. But they're bringing in.
That's a line you walk with those things. Is they can get annoying as opposed to kitschy.
There are characters in that show that because I had to look them up, that you don't realize are based on comic book characters and are. The majority of the characters on that show, comic book characters. Eric and I have described this as an Easter egg hunt. Mm-hmm. For references, and they don't get in the way. What's cool about that show is you don't always know you're looking at references. That's what's really cool.
And that's what's cool about using characters that are minor characters. Is they don't have to be in your face like, look who we're using. I know you've been waiting for us to use this guy or this property. No, just make something out of that, and you've expanded your universe without having to spin it off of something.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Well, let's go ahead and go on to rants, Vince. What do you want to rant about today? Oh, man, who are you going after this time?
I kind of feel a little bad about this, but I'm going to rant about it anyway. So here we go. I love comic book stores.
I do too, Vince.
It's one of my favorite places to go. I like going to different comic book stores. I like hunting up different comic book stores in the area and then trying them out and seeing what they have and seeing what's cool about them. And, most comic book stores have something that's really unique about them. Like, oh, this guy over-orders so much that you can find anything you ever could want. And, oh, this guy has so many interesting antique toys. And, ooh, that's really cool. Now, why is it...
The guy that takes out the third mortgage just so that you can get comic books you couldn't get anywhere else?
Yeah! So here's my question. Why is it that so many comic book stores are unclean places and the owners are kind of mean? Why? Why is this a thing that exists? Like, you can... And now, it's not 100% true. So comic book store owners who are watching this are going, hey... No, I'm not going after everyone. It just seems to be that there is an abundance of stores.
He's also not going after anyone in particular.
Yeah, no one in particular. But, I've gone into a couple stores in the area where I would walk in and the store owner would look at me and he wouldn't say hello as I walked in the door. I went to one where the guy wouldn't come up, like he was more interested in talking to his friend than he was in, me giving him money for a product. And I'm like, why? Like, this is your store. You're not a cashier. You're not an hourly associate. I'm a guy who's likely to come back here. And like, why wouldn't you sweep up on occasion? Or
well, don't you find yourself feeling embarrassed for that guy?
I'm like, no, your store is cool, but you're a jerk, or your store is dirty, but you're really nice. And I'm like, what? I can't hate a person who has, and that's not the goal here, but I can't fully despise someone who's super nice, but his store is really dirty. I'm like, I get it. I understand that it takes time and upkeep to make your store look nice, but at the same time, I'm like, this is an environment you want people to feel at ease in. You want people to feel welcome to come in here and exchange money for goods, because that's the point of having a store. And you don't want to seclude your environment to where it's just you and your buddies and nobody else is welcome in here. It's just me, and if you don't like the same things I do and don't agree with me, I don't need your business. Well, maybe that's one of the reasons why comic book stores can't flourish.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just find myself embarrassed for those people because they're perpetuating a stereotype.
You know, that's part of the problem, is that some of these people, they get into this thing because they like the culture, and then all they have is the culture, and they don't understand that interaction with customers is equally as important as love of the product.
It's also way too exclusive, way too elitist.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was talking to William at Elite, which is the store
who's a terrific guy in a terrific store,
which is the store that helps us out with our comic review show, and he and I had this exact conversation a couple weeks ago. And again, he is not like that. He's not exclusionary at all. He loves it when normal, regular looking people go into a store and are looking at comic books, because don't you want that?
Yeah, you want to expand your viewer or your readership.
Yeah, because it expands your business. Like, don't you want that?
Yes.
So anyway, I mean, like even if you are like a snooty comic book reader that likes that it's like a small intimate thing that not everybody is into, if you're running a store, it seems like you want that bigger. You know, it's like your priorities need it. But anyway, so me and William, I gotta tell you this story. It's funny because I haven't told you about this. I mean, William and I were talking about this, and I made the mistake of using the word elite because I was like, well, you don't want to be an elitist snob, and then I looked at him and I said, oh, I'm really sorry. I said, I don't mean you just because that's the name of your store. And he looked at me and he said, I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story. Well, after he does it,
my store's called Elitist Snob?
No, William goes, oh, and he didn't skip a beat, Vince. He goes, yeah, I didn't come up with that name. That was on the sign when I got here, and it was an expensive sign, and I didn't want to replace it.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's awesome.
Isn't that funny?
That's
he just kept the name because he had a good logo and he had a good sign, and it is a good logo, you know.
Yeah, no, it's nice.
But what's really ironic is that he's not that way, and his store is called Elite. I love that.
What's funny is it's kind of the big comic book store to shop at in the area where all the creators go, so it is kind of the elite group of creators in the area.
But the other meaning of that, you know what I mean? Yeah. Not the we are exclusionary to everyone else, don't come into our store. That is the party comic book store, man. I mean, that's the and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me calling it that, because like you go there on a Wednesday and on his website he says we have a new comic party on Wednesdays. They order pizza, everyone's invited. Like it's really neat. In fact, you can go in there and have pizza and beer. Like they're all drinking in there.
Oh yeah,
it's great. It's really fun. It's a great atmosphere. Yeah.
You know, now that being said,
not to sit here and plug that. I just wanted to mention that as an example of the other side of this.
To launch us into this idea is that there's plenty of comic book stores in the area around Kansas City and the suburbs of Kansas City.
Yeah.
That are just terrific places.
Yeah, there's really good stores. It's just that's the one I happen to shop at.
And it's just there's some that I've been in and they exist all over the place. Like I've been on a tour of comic book stores now, and I kind of look at these places and I'm like, why is it that so few understand and so many seem exclusionary? Exclusatory? Exclusive?
No, exclusionary I think is the right word.
Maybe the word I'm looking for is exclusive.
Exclusive, yeah. But I think both are correct.
So
hey, I used it earlier, so if I'm wrong, we're both wrong.
They're exclusivists.
We can be exclusively wrong together.
This is true. Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
Are you? I don't know why I'm doing this on camera, but are you still interested in any way whatsoever in doing the documentary we once talked about?
I would love to do that.
Yeah, Vince and I, for a long time, and we just have never gotten around to it, have been talking about doing a documentary about comic book stores in the Midwest. Yeah. And I think our working title for a while was what, the Midwest in panels, or I forget what we were talking about. We had a working title.
Oh yeah, Midwest in panels.
I think that's what what you came up with, but I forget. One of us came up with that.
Something. I don't know, but I like it. Midwest.
Somebody came up with that. Maybe my dad. I don't remember who came up. Somebody came up with that. But anyway, so we were talking. Vince and I were talking about making a road trip and getting interviews with stores and doing kind of a low key documentary about the life of running comic book stores and what that's like in 2013 or whatever year we did it, and discussing how digital comics have impacted the business and all those sorts of things. I still think we should do it, man.
I think it would be a good show. I think it'd be interesting. In fact, when I went
we should totally do it.
When my wife and I went on our honeymoon,
I don't think it would cost too much to do it.
I don't think it would either. I mean, of course, there's gas, but
and the hotel rooms if we go far enough.
Yeah, but we could rent an RV.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, man.
No, that'd be really fun, dude. Yeah, we should totally do that. Just me and you on the road for like 4 or 5 days in a row. I think it'd be really fun.
On the road again, hit by a semi.
And you know what else we should do? We should do a lot of filming of just us like randomly talking about things in the RV or whatever we were taking, and just
set up a camera in the back.
Yeah, and just occasionally
get one of those M. Night Shyamalan shots of the back of our heads,
where it looks really artsy, but it doesn't mean anything.
I like it. That's
what it would be with us. I'm not really saying that about Shyamalan. I actually said that about Unbreakable, but then somebody left a comment recently on that video and said, actually, this is why he put the camera back there, and they were completely right. And I was like, oh, I guess it was better than I thought it was. I mean, that part of it, I loved that movie. That was a 4. I think that was a 4.
Yeah, I liked Unbreakable. It was good.
Well, Vince, here's my rant.
Go ahead.
This is one of those things where I'm not complaining about anybody but myself. This is one of those things where something irritates me.
He owns a comic book store.
Yeah, no, I don't. There's a thing that irritates me, and it's one of those things that doesn't seem to irritate very many other people, so I don't know why I don't like it, or at least, well, I kind of know why I don't like it. It's just one of those things where, like, for whatever reason, it's okay with me, it's not cool. What is the appeal in video games of boss battles?
It adds finality to the level.
I guess. But I find them often really, really tedious and cumbersome. Like, I hate boss battles in most video games. I was thinking about this while I was playing Arkham Origins. There were a couple where they were really difficult, really challenging, and I was like getting frustrated and like, God, why is this so hard? And then I thought, oh, it's a video game. It should probably be challenging, but it's not challenging in the way that I like it to be. Like I'll be playing a side scroller and then I get to the boss and I'm like, okay, now I gotta jump on the guy's head and come over here and then dodge the things that he throws and figure out what the pattern is and then dodge the things that he throws and jump on the head and he throws a thing at me and then I grab it and I throw it back at him. And that is not appealing to me. That's not fun for me. Like I play Donkey Kong Country in order to do the side scrolling levels, jump on the things, try not to fall off and die, not to throw barrels at giant bees.
Now, on the flip side, you do really enjoy some fighting games, right?
Yeah, but they're not boss battles. It's different.
I mean, they're kind of boss battles.
No, they're not. And here's why I say they're not. Because boss battles are usually about a pattern. It's usually you have to find the weakness. You have to run around. I guess the problem is I don't know what I'm supposed to do right away. Maybe that's what irritates me about it, is that like I have to do a lot of running around before I finally know what I'm supposed to do.
You have to die like 3 times.
Yeah, and when I'm doing a fighting game, the whole point is a dance. It's a tete-a-tete. It's like I'm fighting this other person. The whole point is for us to fight. It's not like I'm playing Virtua Fighter and I'm playing as Sarah and the computer is playing as
and Sarah's playing as Captain
and Sarah's playing as Akira and I'm beating the crap out of her because A, I'm way better with Sarah than Sarah is with playing Sarah, and B, because if you don't get that move right with Akira where you do the elbow thing right, you're never going to manage anything. But the thing is, well, the other thing too is that with fighting games, Vince, they're not as much fun unless you have another person. Like, I'm not really into first player fighting in a fighting game. I much prefer to have an opponent and play. That's just my personal preference. But anyway, all I'm saying is that's different from a boss battle for me. I don't feel like it's exactly the same thing. So I don't know. And I think the other thing too is that like if I'm playing like a side scroller and I get stuck in a place where it's just really hard, where It's just a really challenging place for the platforming and all of that. That's enjoyable for me because I have to like figure out how to. I'm developing a skill to get past it. I'm figuring out how to do it, and I'm like, okay, now that I figured this out, I'll always know how to do that. And here's the skill I developed. But then, a lot of platforming is trial and error like that, and just getting good at performing a function or performing something, and then you get to a boss battle and it's not like that. It's just, okay, I learned how to do this thing so that I could beat this boss and get to the next part, and then you'll never use that skill again.
I have a complaint about boss battles as well.
What's your complaint?
You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the thing that annoys me about boss battles is that it slows down the narrative of a comic book.
I hate boss battles in comic books, dude. That's so irritating. Like,
it slows down the narrative of the video game because instantly, by putting several boss battles in a video game, it's about getting to the bad guy to fight, fighting the bad guy, getting to the next bad guy to fight. It's almost like saying it's not important what happens in the video game so much as it is important that you have several big guys that you have to fight in the video game.
Well, that's what makes it so hard to make a narrative-driven game work and make that a good narrative medium. You know what I mean?
I could care less if I ever had, like, especially in...
if I'm just doing an adventure game, I don't have to have a story. But if it's a game that it wants me to have a story and it's just built around you fight this guy and then you fight this guy,
I mean, if your conceit makes it to where you'll be fighting several different... I mean, like Arkham Asylum, it's an asylum full of bad guys. Of course you're going to fight bad guys.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those cases where you have the kind of obligatory nature of the video game where you have to have boss battles, and they simply came up with a way to do that formula and not hide the formula inside of the narrative. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Now, with that game in particular, they a final boss battle that felt really contrived as a big final boss battle. I think a lot of people agree with me on that. The Joker built up on the Titan formula was pretty ridiculous. Just the way that it worked out.
When I saw that, I went, really?
Anyway, that's my rant. That's just a personal stupid preference thing of mine. I'm just not real into boss battle, and I think the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm always surprised by gamers that like that's the thing that they love. You know what I mean? Like a lot of players talk about boss battles, like that's the reason they play the game, or maybe that's not like the reason they play, but like they'll get really frustrated if they get to a boss and it's too easy. I love easy bosses because I don't have to deal with them anymore. I can play the actual game that I set out to play in the first place.
On the flip side,
understand, I'm speaking as kind of a non-gamer. It's not fair. If you look at my game room, I look like a gamer. I just mean that like I'm more of a retro gamer, and so that I have a different perspective on this, I think, than a lot of modern gamers.
You know, that's interesting because I almost feel like there's kind of a different style of gaming. Because it seems like everybody who gets Grand Theft Auto does it not so much to play the missions, but rather steal cars and shoot things.
Yeah, sure.
So they don't even really do anything of great importance in each game. They just go around and futz with the universe.
Well, that's the, when you finally cut your first album, I'd like you to call it Futz with the Universe.
My rapper name is Futz. F-U-T-Z.
And every album is futzing with something else. It's like Futz with the Universe, Futz with the grocery store.
Futzing with Christopher Walken.
Futzing around with Marlon Brando.
Futzing with Sasquatch.
Okay, well, we are going to bid everyone farewell and continue this ridiculous diatribe on our own. And in the meantime,
thanks with farewells.
Thanks everybody for watching Geeks Not Nerds. Really hope you enjoyed it. And once again, we've been doing this longer format for a while. And in case anybody's new and wondering, I've had a couple comments lately where people are like, "Oh, you make really long videos." Let me reiterate for folks that are new, especially why that is. Vince and I used to do a longer podcast where it was just audio and you didn't see us on camera, and it was usually half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour, and we've now blended these two things together, GNN, Geeks Not Nerds, and the podcast. So basically now what we do is just the old podcast, but on camera, as opposed to a 15-minute GNN, because we used to do both. We used to do a GNN and a podcast every week, and now we've kind of merged those two things together.
Who figured Why not?
Yeah, so, and a lot of it's just because of time constraints and things like that. It's easier for Vince and I to do one big video than a smaller video and a bigger video these days. But anyway, so, and yeah, let's just be a bit more leisurely about it and just kind of hang out with you folks like we're all in a room together for as long as we feel like talking.
And also, we can fully explore a topic.
Yeah.
In a video format.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to suggest to folks, because I got a comment recently, and I'm sorry I don't remember who it was. I don't have that sitting in front of me, but somebody left a comment recently and suggested something that's really useful, which is there are, and I'll put if I remember to, I'll put a link to a good website for this in the description. There are a lot of websites now where you can for free download a YouTube video, and what some folks are doing now with our shows, especially these longer ones where we're just talking, is they'll take the video and they'll convert it to MP3 and then they'll put it on a device and go listen to it, because these are easily listenable without having to look at us on camera. So because people keep asking,
our beautiful face.
Yeah, it's their loss. But what people will sometimes say, see, if you're listening to this, you wouldn't have seen what Vince just did. It was funny. But anyway, and you wouldn't have seen the merger between hands. But anyway,
people listen are like,
what is it?
Merger?
What happened? Yeah, you also
have one hand.
Yeah, you're also gonna miss the whole synchronized swimming thing and everything. But anyway, so some of these websites too, Vince, will let you download the MP3 immediately. Like you can do the conversion while you're downloading it, rather than having to convert it, on your machine. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that for folks.
Yeah, listen to our podcast that way.
People will very often ask, "Hey, where can I download this?" And the answer to that is nowhere, because the podcast sites have gotten to where we would have to pay like a monthly fee to get our content up, because we have a lot of viewership, and which is a good problem to have, but we have a lot of viewership, and the bandwidth is just too much, and we currently don't have the means to fund that an extra thing like that right now. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that for folks in case people want to listen to us instead of watching us, and they want to take us with them to listen to us talking. So
it'll take about the same amount of time to convert and download as opposed to just download.
Yeah, and it's actually less, because it's just an MP3. If you're just doing that, it's actually really, really quick.
Right. The MP3 is extremely quick.
It's really quick. But anyway, so I'll put a link in the description and about that. And anyway, thanks to everybody for watching. We sure appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. I'm Captain Logan,
and I'm Vince. Support your local comic book store, guys.
See you later.